So I'll be upgrading to this Enduro transmission today. This is a kit I got off eBay for around $50 or so. I think for anyone upgrading from an LCX transmission, basically the stock axial transmission, the grey one that's all plastic, this is probably one of the best value for money transmissions out there. If you're not looking into using dig, then this is probably one of the best transmissions because it gives you overdrive and a nice metal motor plate. I'm not going to be going through it step by step. It's pretty self-explanatory with the instructions. I'm just going to film some interesting parts that I found, and yeah, that's basically it. So one of the disadvantages to this transmission, however, is it includes a 48 pitch spur gear. So this is obviously not the best for durability. Obviously there are also plastic gears included with the transmission, but I don't think these are going to be a problem. These are pretty nice plastics from Associated, and if you do need to upgrade them to steel, they already have machined versions of these gears, so that's not going to be a concern. So with this transmission, obviously you can actually build it two ways. It includes two different top shafts, so you can have the motor oriented at the back or towards the front. I'm just going to stick with the same orientation as the stock SCX one, so the motor is going to be pointing backwards with the motor plate pointing to the front of the truck. And I'll also be just using the smallest amount of overdrive here. This is going to be the 52 tooth and the 53 tooth. So with that said, I'll be going with this first option in gate 2. This will be exactly the same orientation as the stock SCX10 or 1.9 Wraith transmission. Another thing I'll be doing is actually removing some of the seals for the bearings. So for the bearings that are totally internal, that does not face the outside at all, I like to remove the bearing seals just so that it lowers resistance of the drivetrain, smoother drivetrain, better efficiency, that's all. It's not crucial, but that's just something I like to do. So as you can see here, these bearings will be seeing the outside, so they'll still retain its seals, while the bearings in here, these are all just dead end holes here, they will have those seals removed. So here's the final configuration of my transmission. I have the 52 tooth in the front, 53 tooth at the back, the respective idler gears, and also the top shaft at the back. It's pretty easy. Whichever is the front output, so this is the front currently, you put the smaller gear on, and you can't mess the top gears up because they only fit in one way after you assemble it. But for the bottom output guys, the thicker part of the output here, as you can see, is always at the back. So here I have both transmissions mounted up with a 540 motor. First most apparent difference between the transmission is obviously the width of it, the thickness if you like. The LCX transmission of the Axial is much narrower compared to the Stealth X, and again that's because it has more gears inside for that adjustable overdrive, and so this is going to cause compatibility issues mostly with your drive shaft lengths. So with both transmissions flat on the same surface, you can see that the Stealth X transmission is a bit higher in terms of the motor position compared to the LCX from Axial, and I would say about 3 to 4 millimeters, around an 1/8 inch. This obviously will have some effect to your center of gravity. Looking at the motor position in context of the skid plate, since these two have the same exact bolt pattern, they're pretty comparable, and we're assuming that it's the stock position, so the spur gear here is pointing, the front of the truck is pointing this way, and since we have this aligned up here, basically the exact same level, you can see that the motor position on the Enduro is actually a bit further forward compared to the Axial one, so this again could work to the advantage of the Enduro transmission. The output shaft is also in a different position. As you can see on the Stealth X transmission, it's much higher than the Axial LCX. I'd say around 3 millimeters to around 1/8 inch, and again this will basically increase your drive shaft angle and could potentially cause some binding issues of your central drive shafts if you're running, let's say, a more lifted truck.